way that he thinks. I mean, the argument about the female genital mutilation being an Islamic problem is a perfect example of that. It's not an Islamic problem, it's an African problem.
Well, wait, because he says it's a, hold on a second, because he says it's a Muslim country problem. He says that in Somalia.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
Okay, I don't even agree with the way that's crazy. That was a wild thing to just, it's an African problem? That's, okay, what? That's a wild way to reframe it. Goddamn, okay. She's like, listen.
Yeah, and that's actually empirically, factually incorrect. It's a Central African problem. Eritrea has almost 90% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Ethiopia has 75% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Nowhere else in the Muslim majority states is female genital mutilation an issue. But again, this is the problem.
What's the correct framing? He should have said it was most likely a regional issue that is born out of the instability in these countries. But I get what he was trying to say. Reza Aslan is an Iranian evangelical convert.
Is that you make these facile arguments like that women are somehow mistreated in the Muslim world. Well, that's certainly true in many Muslim majority countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. Do you know that Muslims have elected 7 women as their heads of states in those Muslim majority countries? How many women do we have as head of states in the United States?
Reza, be honest, though, for the most part, it is not.
Dude, 2014, this shit was popping, dude. Yo, you could just, I was about to say, things have not changed at all, okay? I guess, like, the language around it has changed a little bit, but, like, dude, like, look at this. Like, anyone that tries to be like, listen, here's the actual truth of the matter. This has nothing to do with Islam. And also, interpretations of religion vary from country to country. And ultimately, you have to look at fundamentalism and not religion itself. You say some shit like that in any part post 9/11. You say some shit like that ever after 9/11, and people should be like, shut the f up. Why don't you go strap yourself with a TNT vest and blow yourself up, okay? Yeah, Mr. Allahu Akbar. How about you shut your Muslimist, Muslimic terrorist ass up?
A free and open society for women in those states.
Well, it's not in Iran. It's not in Saudi Arabia. It certainly is in Indonesia and Malaysia. It certainly is in Bangladesh. It certainly is in Turkey. I mean, again, this is the problem, is that you're talking about a religion of 1.5 billion people, and certainly it becomes very easy to just simply paint them all with a single brush by saying, well, in Saudi Arabia, they can't drive, and so therefore that's somehow representative of Islam. It's representative of Saudi Arabia.
But
in Iran, they don't have...
I mean, I think that Bill Maher's point is that these aren't extremists. We often talk about extremists and that we should crack down on extremists, and why aren't Muslims speaking out about extremists? In Saudi Arabia, when women can't vote and they can't drive and they need permission from their husband, that's not extremists. Why aren't we talking more about what? That's not extremist, that's commonplace. Why don't we talk more about the commonplace wrongs that are happening in some of these countries?
It's extremist when compared to the rights and responsibilities of women, Muslim women around the world. It's an extremist way of dealing with it.
But it's not extremist in that. It's not extremist in that country in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Sam Harris literally said TSA shouldn't waste their time on travelers from white countries and only inspect Muslims. That's what made me drift away from these grifters. Here's old Hassanabi lore dump. Back when I was at the Young Turks, Sam Harris was at the Santa Monica Equinox. And I knew who he was because he had debated my uncle recently, but he didn't know who I was, obviously, because I was a up-and-comer at TYT. So I approached him, and I was like, oh, my God, you're Sam Harris. Big fan. I'm lying. And we had a very quick conversation about Islam at the Santa Monica Equinox that we were both working out at. Okay, quick lore dump. And in which I asked him about, like, why he places the emphasis on Islamic terror at a time when, you know, 90 or not 95, I think at the time it was 75% of domestic terror incidents that take place on U.S. soil were actually white nationalist, far-right, anti-government extremists. Okay? I said this directly to him. I was like, the data, it shows that 75% of domestic terror incidents on U.S. soil have happened since 9/11, have happened in the hands of white supremacists, far-right, anti-government extremists.
This is a semi-auto assault rifle. That's weird.
And to which he literally turned around and said, look behind you, there's the Santa Monica Pier. Okay? if that exploded right now, who would you think was responsible? Would you think, Mormon extremists would be responsible for that? Or would you think Muslim extremists would be responsible for that? And I was shocked at how non-data driven his attitude was on this, in this conversation. Straight up. And for the record, he has personally brought that forward as a epic own many times in public as well.
Arabia, that's the norm.
Oh, no, it's not. I mean, look, Saudi Arabia.
No, my response was I would not make an inference that it's Muslim or Mormon until there was more evidence presented. But why did Sam Harris feel comfortable making this as an argument? And he has actually made this as an argument since then, right? Since that private conversation. Why? It's because when the overwhelming majority kind of agree with that statement due to the societal attitudes towards Islam as being like a singularly dangerous ideology that creates terrorists, okay, then you can get away with that sort of irrational thinking because ultimately that's just you being biased, right? That's just simply put you being a biased person. And yet it does not matter because if enough people agree with that bias and they take that bias as though it is the truth, then it doesn't matter if you're saying something that is completely illogical. Okay? We feel comfortable saying school shooters are white people. No. Brother, did you not hear the first part of this conversation where I told Sam Harris that the overwhelming majority, 75% of domestic terror incidents on U.S. soil since 9/11 were not done by Muslims, but instead done by white supremacists, anti-government, far-right terrorists? Did you just erase that part of the conversation from your brain? Are you choosing not to hear that? Okay, that's my point. That's why a lot of this is a testament to transphobia and transpanic defenses not working all that well. Okay. There's one trans person that did a school shooting. And before then, and ever since then, right-wingers keep claiming that every school shooter or every shooter really that's high profile is trans, right? Over and over and over again. It is statistically marginal. Okay. It is irrelevant. If you want to group the profile of a school shooter or a mass shooter, it's almost always a white guy. Okay. With some exceptions. Having said that, however, it doesn't work when people try to say, it's just, trans people that are doing it. But that hasn't stopped right-wingers from consistently claiming that it is a trans person. Okay? Now, the difference is white men specifically dominate in the field of school shootings so aggressively that, and because of the way we analyze whiteness and white people in general in a, country like the United States of America, where whiteness is a socio-political framing of power, okay? A social-political designation that is basically just saying you're a part of the in-group. People don't automatically assume racist opinions about white people. I'm a white guy. Nobody thinks I'm a school shooter. You know what I mean? It doesn't work in the same way. This is the difference between in-group, out-group dynamics. Those who retain power due to intrinsic qualities in a white supremacist society, you never monolithize those people, okay? You have the capacity to understand that it's a complex and nuanced situation as to how they arrived at that position when it's a white person doing it. You never offer that same kind of nuance if it's a marginalized person doing it. You just go, that's how they are.
Arabia is one of the most, if not the most extremist Muslim country in the world. In the month that we've been talking about ISIS and their terrible actions in Iraq and Syria, Saudi Arabia, our closest ally, has beheaded 19 people. Nobody seems to care about that because Saudi Arabia sort of preserves our national interests.
Okay.
This is the problem, is that these kinds of conversations that we're having aren't really being had in any kind of legitimate way. We're not talking about women in the Muslim world. We're using 2 or 3 examples to justify a generalization. That's actually the definition of bigotry.
All right, fair enough. Let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu at the United Nations.
No Okay, dude, things never change. Okay, Kaya, okay.
So when it comes to their ultimate goals, Hamas is ISIS, and ISIS is Hamas.
Guys, this is in 2014, okay? Just so you understand. This is in 2014. Oh, my Lord. This is in 2014, okay? Holy moly.
And what they share in common, all militant Islamists share in common.
So Reza, the question at the bottom of the screen that everyone is looking at, does Islam promote violence?
Islam doesn't promote violence or peace. Islam is just a religion, and like every religion...
Dude, look at this. Does Islam promote violence? Up next on CNN. Does every Muslim want to kill every American?
Religion in the world, it depends on what you bring to it. If you're a violent person, your Islam, your Judaism, your Christianity, your Hinduism is going to be violent. There are marauding Buddhist monks in Myanmar slaughtering women and children.
Facts.
Does Buddhism promote violence? Of course not. People are violent or peaceful, and that depends on their politics, their social world, the way that they see their communities, the way they see themselves.
So, Reza, you don't think that there's anything more... There's the justice system in Muslim countries, you don't think, is somehow more primitive or subjugates women more than in other countries?
Did you hear what you just said? You said in Muslim countries. I just told you that Indonesia, women are absolutely 100% equal to men. In Turkey, they have had more female representatives, more female heads of state in Turkey than we have in the United States.
But in Pakistan,
stop saying things like Muslim countries.
Women are still being stoned.
And that's a problem for Pakistan. You're
so in
right.
other words,
so let's criticize Pakistan.
I just want to be clear on what your point is, because I thought you and Bill Maher were saying the same thing. Your point is that Muslim countries are not to blame. There is nothing particular, there's no common thread in Muslim countries. You can't paint with a broad brush that somehow their justice system or Sharia law or what they're doing in terms of stoning and female mutilation is different than in other countries like Western countries.
Stoning and mutilation and those barbaric practices should be condemned and criticized by everyone. The actions of individuals and societies and countries like Iran, like Pakistan, like Saudi Arabia must be condemned because they don't belong in the 21st century. But to say Muslim countries as though Pakistan and Turkey are the same, as though Indonesia and Saudi Arabia are the same, as though somehow what is happening in the most extreme forms of these repressive countries, these autocratic countries, is representative of what's happening in every other Muslim country is frankly, and I use this word seriously, stupid. So let's stop doing it.
Here's another throwback to Ben Affleck owning Sam Harris.
And about women, about homosexuals that are deeply troubling. So these are not Islamists, they're not jihadists, but
those views are anathema to ours.
But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower.
This is like such an old. What year is this from? Is this like 20? Maybe. This is definitely like getting up there. There's definitely like a important, and I guess, I don't know. Shut up.
The true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And, lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
The
Great Divide. The Great Divide is not between Islam and the rest. It's rather between the fundamentalists and the moderates in each faith.
Okay, but we're misled to think that the fundamentalists are the fringe. Okay, we have jihadists, Islamists, and conservatives.
Well, and by the way,
hundreds of millions of people fit that description.
You're saying that the strongest voices are coming from those who are jihadists and extremists. And that represents a bigger piece of the pie than we often think is true. Okay, so having said that, and even if that is true statistically or otherwise, the key thing to recognize that I don't think is part of the argument, but I think should be, is that there are voices that are oftentimes raised in opposition to these jihadists and to these extreme acts. But guess what? They don't get covered. They don't get exposed. And they're not given the same level of platform that we see the jihadists.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out, because it's the only religion that acts like the mafia.
Fuck Bill Maher.
Will kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write.
Yeah, dude. Famously, the only religion that acts like the mafia and kills you is Islam. Okay? Yeah. Brother, your refusal to understand nuance in this conversation is leading you down this illogical pathway of thinking. Okay? This is why I just, I harbor a lot of resentment for Islamophobic r/atheist guys, the militant atheists. Okay? Not only historically have Christians done that, but they still continue to do that. What are we talking about? When Israel claims they're doing it for Judaism, they're also, I don't agree. I don't believe that they're doing it for Judaism, just as much as I don't believe ISIS has anything to do with Islam. Okay? But Bill Maher, on the other hand, does think that that's appropriate and good. Okay? Same with George W. Bush saying he invaded, God told him to invade Afghanistan with a ton of, very far-right Christian generals who wanted to dip their bullets in pig's blood. Okay?
It's gone as dog
track
shit.
that as radical Christian
goblin.
And
It's
people
fucking
that say
crap.
they do are lying because they want to win that argument. Because when you live in a dominant Christian culture, you have the capacity to understand and separate fundamentalism from the acts of like the everyday average Christians. That's the difference.
Write the wrong book.
So you do
and there's a reason why Ayaan Hirsi Ali needs bodyguards 24/7.
You have that element of fear as well, but you also have other braver souls out there who do speak out.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali, another grifter who's now a Christian, by the way. Christian convert, Ayaan Hirsi Ali,
and who
are risking their lives.
Like the Muslim clerics and others from Australia to Europe to the United States just recently publicly put their names on paper declaring their opposition to what ISIS and others are doing. So there are those voices, but where was the coverage? Where was that story to sort of create a different picture?
What is your solution? What is your ask?
The solution is very much what
we've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I'm not doing more data.
Yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not really a reflection of what we believe in. We did by accident. That's what we did. We're not going to put 4 million euros.
We're not convincing anybody.
It's not specifically telling you that I disagree with what you think.
I know. And we're obviously not convinced.
Don't understand it.
You don't understand my argument.
Black people, they show
No, it's not. It's based on facts. I can show you a pew poll of Egyptians. They are not outliers in the Muslim world that say like 90% of them believe death is the appropriate response to leaving the religion. If 90% of Brazilians thought that death was the appropriate response to leaving Catholicism, you would think it was a bigger deal.
I would think it's a big deal no matter what.
Okay, but that's the fact.
But what I wouldn't do is say it's all Brazilians. So I wouldn't say, well, Ted Bundy did this. Goddamn, these gays are all trying to meet each other.
Okay, let me just give you what you want. There are hundreds of millions of Muslims who are nominal Muslims, who don't take the faith seriously, who don't want to kill apostates, who are horrified by ISIS, and we need to defend these people, prop them up, and let them reform.
That was an early relic. That was an early relic of the post 9/11 Islamophobia that r/atheists always love talking about. All these Muslims want to kill apostates. Yeah. I think it's got to be because I think it came from the fact that like so many ex-Muslim people that became like r/atheism wanted to like heighten their importance. So I think like they presented their worldview as like, no, every single Muslim will like immediately kill you if you leave the religion. I think that's what it is. Like, because I don't know where the this came from. And I know people will say, it's the religion, sweetie. It's like, no, that's not really, like, that's not really a commonly shared opinion. Yeah, see, Turks in the chat saying that they're embarrassed, but they did that as well. A lot of r/atheists, like Turks and former Muslims or people who grew up in Muslim countries that don't like Islam, oftentimes play this very formative role in shaping people's understanding of it, not realizing that it you know, contributes to their own personal dehumanization. Beyond Me parks, all of them.
ISIS couldn't fill a AA ballpark in Charleston, West Virginia, and you were making a career out of ISIS.
But no, it's not just ISIS. It's global jihadists. It's a phenomenon of global jihad.
I think that's the opposite.
There is those things. There's ISIS. There's global jihadists. The question is the degree to which you're willing to say, because I've...
Global jihadists, dude. It's what a time to be alive, dude. I mean, look. This is why I sometimes say we're back, but we're not as back as we were. You know what I mean? Do you understand? Like, things are this bad, but I don't know. Aesthetically speaking, it's not this level. Like, things are bad, but it still hasn't hit this level, I think. It will get there, though, when Trump is in office.
Witness this behavior, which we all object to on the part of these people. I'm willing to...
These people are talking about takfir, which is basically excommunication, but that phrase isn't mentioned in the Quran, nor is it supported by many Islamic scholars. It's seen as an Islamic militant thing. No, dude, you don't understand. Everyone's always killing people for leaving the religion, famously.
Flatly condemn those of you I don't know and have never met.
No,
this is
not
based
condemning
on
people. It's ideas.
And people who believe in those ideas.
So it's those people who believe in
based on reality, Ben. We're not making it up that there is that in the Muslim world it is mainstream belief.
But this is such a caricature of Indonesia, of Malaysia, so much of the world. And this does have the tinge a little bit of the way white racists talk about African Americans and define blacks by...
But what you're saying is because they are a minority, we shouldn't criticize.
They're not that much of a minority. It's the second biggest religion in the world.
Exactly, but you're treating them like a minority. But, I mean, if Filipinos were capturing teenagers and sending them into white slavery, we would criticize that. We wouldn't say, well, they're Filipinos.
You criticize the people who are doing it, not the Philippines. You know what I mean?
Well, what if the people
who are... Filipino kid lives down the street from you would have nothing to do with that. So these are different things, crazy
racial
people.
Stereotyping.
I think it goes...
Let's talk... We mentioned ISIS. Let's talk about that.
That part was great. The greatest defender of all time, Bill Maher, against his Islamophobic tendencies will forever be, and I hate to give this to him because he's very different now, Glenn Greenwald. That Ben Affleck clip is great, but Glenn Greenwald on Bill Maher, if anyone has the clip, is a classic one. I used to play it all the time.
It's not our fault what came out. We didn't go into Egypt.
Well, we
wound up with the Muslim Brotherhood.
We didn't go into Egypt. We were supporting and propping up Mubarak for 30 years, even as we were cheering for all the Tahrir Square demonstrators as though we were on their side. It was our government that kept Mubarak in power, just like we've done across the entire Muslim world. And it's amazing for you to say that, well, look at all these Muslims. The minute you give them a little bit of freedom, they go wild and they start being all violent. How can you be a citizen of the United States, the country that has generated more violence and militarism in the world over the last 5 or 6 decades, and say, look at those people over there, they are incredibly violent? We play a significant role in what has been happening in the Middle East because we've been interfering and dominating that region in order to have access to the oil.
I wasn't talking about violence. I was talking about theocracy. That doesn't happen here.
No, well, okay, that doesn't happen here, but at the same time, Iran isn't invading lots of other countries and occupying them for a decade, nor are fundamentalist Muslim countries the way the United States is. So these things are interlinked because we are continuously interfering in that part of the world. And so to say...
Really, it's all our fault?
It's not all our fault, but when you send your military for 6 straight decades into other countries to bomb them, kill their children and women and innocent men, prop up dictators, yeah, you take responsibility for your actions and say, to the extent that that region...
That religion goes back 1,000 years before our revolution, so I don't think we can take all...
This is so unimaginably racist because Islam in its golden age literally carried water for history continuing. Islam in its golden age led to many inventions that we take for fucking granted. Islam in its golden age is the reason why so many important academic materials were preserved. So he literally automatically, with his racist ass, white supremacist ass, Islamophobic ass, unironically just goes, oh, 1,000 years. Like, shut the f up, you stupid ass bitch. Do you enjoy math? Okay, well, you know, thank the Islamic golden age. Dumb f.
All the blame.
I don't think we should. I think we should take a lot of it. And there's lots of bodies and corpses that have been piled up in the name of Christianity and Judaism as well.
Not recently.
Have you heard of the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza for the last 50 years, motivated in part by extremist views of Judaism, or the wars in Europe, or the fact that there were generals in the United States saying we have to go and invade and destroy Iraq, a country of 26 million people, because our God is bigger? Lots of religions, not just Islam, produce violence.
Well, if I could just make one quick point about Egypt.
That silly liberal view that all religions are alike because it makes you feel good.
No, it makes you feel...
Dude. He cooked his ass so hard today, okay? And I will forever be understanding.
Good to say our side is better than people over there are primitive and violent.
No, it makes you feel good to put a crown on your head and say, I'm a good person. How do I prove that?
You get to ignore the responsibility that your own government has for the violence and instability in the world by saying, look, it's that primitive religion over there that's to blame.
At least there was a moment in time that I respected Glenn Greenwald. There's never been such a moment for Bill Maher. That's my point. I guess I was too young to know and appreciate his immediate takes after 9/11. So as long as I've known myself, I have despised him. His career has just been a sequence of L's downstream post that moment of moral clarity. Anyway, so yeah, people are yelling at Joe Rogan saying he's a dragon defender for a clip from 2019. How stupid. All right, let's hear what Benjamin Netanyahu, what it looks like. When is this?
You know, when Bush was trying to gain international support for the invasion of Iraq, he met the French president, Chirac, and well, I'll tell you how I learned about this and then tell you what the story is. Around that time, I got a letter from a Belgian theologian who sent me a disquisition that he wrote on a very obscure passage in the book of Ezekiel about Gog and Magog coming and doing terrible things to Israel. Nobody knows what it means. Are they people? Are they places? It's just a very obscure passage. But in a stream of evangelical theology, this means an evil force will come from the north, attack Israel, lead to Armageddon, then all these things happen. Well, what happened with Bush and Chirac? Bush apparently started, this is January 2003, right before the war, he went off and started talking to Chirac about Gog and Magog. Chirac didn't know what the heck he was talking about. So he asked the Élysée, the French Foreign Office, what's this guy raving about? They didn't know. So they contacted this Belgian theologian who explained to them what it's about. I learned about this at the time, but I didn't believe a word of it, so I never wrote about it. But I did mention it to an Australian academic, a researcher, Clive Hamilton, and he looked into it, and it's true. It shows up in the French biographies of Chirac. Well, this tells us that, you know, speaking of the dangers we face, our fate is sometimes in the hands of people who are, by any rational standards, hard to believe. And it's not the only case. Actually, Reagan talked about Russia as Gog and Magog.
Well, we seem to be having a little trouble in our relations with.
Yeah. What is this? Yale graduate and hedge fund manager is the new Treasury Secretary of the new working class party. Scott Bessent, a Soros protege? What does that even mean? Anyway, the point is, I'm consistent in my analysis. Okay? I'm consistent in my analysis. I do not believe George W. Bush I do not believe George W. Bush invaded Iraq and Afghanistan for religious reasons. Okay? No matter what he said in private or in public. Just like I don't think that Islam is uniquely evil or uniquely bad. It's not. Religion is simply a tool for the masses to organize around, and it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. The real reason why there's so many reactionary tendencies and fundamentalist beliefs that you see in that region is because of American destabilization. That's it. American destabilization and propping up radical factions, or American destabilization and those radical factions inevitably fighting back against American destabilization, further American destabilization. That's it.
associate with that guy. But when you don't associate with that guy, you are now allowing that to fester uninterrupted. And I don't think that he is the only reason that Kamala lost.
Certainly not.
I have so much anger for the Democratic Party and for their fucking fecklessness.
But it's crazy.
Well, here's something I can relate it to our own experience. Something that very much like that. And maybe we'll cut all this out. We have been invited on more than one occasion to be on the H3 podcast.
Oh, this is interesting, Keith. This is interesting.
And we have kind of never responded because we're like, well, I don't want our going on that podcast to be us saying that the things on this podcast are what we endorse.
There's a producer on that show who's a Try Guys fan, and she seems darling. And if you're listening to this and we haven't cut it, you seem excellent.
I like Olivia a lot.
But also, like, I think if we went on there, we would probably sort of check them at every step that they present to us that is negative. But at the same time, at some point, we're going to joke and have fun with them. And that is like, am I painting what they are saying in a positive light? Or am I using this opportunity while still doing that to try to reach some of those people and be able to like tell him to say something like, yeah, but you're putting on a character of being a douchebag.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't actually have me on the show if you hated me, because why would I be here? So you're like pretending to hate me because the type of entertainment you make is to put people down, and you even like put down our launching a subscription service while you have a YouTube memberships.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
You have YouTube memberships. It's the same exact thing.
More specifically,
I think that's a great point.
But like, should we go on it?
And more specifically with Ethan, he is someone who, we're both Jewish guys. We have different views about Israel and Palestine. He has said some really wildly hateful things about Palestinian supporters. And so I have a disagreement with him in views. And I think that's a conversation we could have, even though he comes at it from a place of wild diatribes. But then, there's that question to audiences. Is it by even going on their platform or by platforming them, are you validating? And now you're shutting yourself away from those spaces. But if you shut yourself away from those spaces, then you're not able to talk to other people. I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
I think this is a very interesting conversation.
But this is exactly like Kamala doesn't go on Joe Rogan.
No, it is.
By the way, it's exactly like that.
Well, it's not exactly like that, because in the case of...
They were joking, brah. It was a joke.
Kamala going on Joe Rogan, she's trying to get herself in front of Joe Rogan's audience. These guys would be talking about Ethan and trying to change Ethan's mind.
It was a joke.
They're not really trying to promote themselves to Joe Rogan. And the other thing is, when we're talking about Kamala going on Joe Rogan, it's more of like an outreach to young men and an outreach to just different parts of the electorate that Kamala Harris wasn't reaching. She doesn't have to only go on Joe Rogan to do that. The big issue was, like, saying Kamala should go on Joe Rogan is a little bit of a shorthand, and just to simply say that Kamala needed to campaign better. She needed to campaign to a more diverse group of people, rather than like doing a very selective amount of interviews and going on to the same like establishing media programs over and over again. She did go on to the Call Her Daddy podcast. That was great. We needed more of that. So these guys talk about potentially going on to Ethan Klein's podcast, and so this was Ethan Klein's wonderfully stated thing. He responds to them. What does he say? 1, I think it's nice they didn't just call me crazy and dismiss me outright. Okay. 2, I don't think we'll disagree much, if anything, on Palestine, despite what you've seen on Twitter. All right.
This like shit Ethan's saying is so inconsistent. If it were, I mean, I don't know why he isn't like old rat anti-Semite son, like such. I don't know. Why is that? He needs to explain that immediately, because like, what the fuck, bro? You're basically saying that like, we don't support anything you're saying. What you're saying is fucking crazy. It's like, that should automatically invoke you to say that they're like Hamas fucking lovers, right? You fucking asshole. But why? Your fucking positions are so goddamn incoherent. It's sad. And pathetic. And I'm fucking just Toy Story meme dropping. Really, I'm done playing with you.
They're not getting up.
3. I agree we should be able to talk. It seems like we have a lot to discuss. I'm definitely interested in demystifying whatever concept you have of me being a right-wing Palestinian hater. My gripe with the activists is their non-stop...
Everyone thinks you're a right-wing Palestinian hater because you say the same fucking shit a right-wing Palestinian hater would fucking say. So, I mean, what the fuck, bro? What do you want? You want it both ways. You want everyone to think you're against the genocide and that you're left-wing. At the same time saying far right-wing dog shit, advocating for the murder of Palestinians at the end of the day. It's a contradiction. You might be like, well, I don't want it to happen, but like the forces that are making it happen, you defend with all effort. It makes no sense. You're incoherent. Fuck off.
Propaganda campaign to ruin anyone that doesn't pass their purity test despite agreeing on 95% of things. You guys should come on. And what else do we have on this? Oh yeah, and then Ethan got bad empanada's video taken down.
And his whole purity test thing is in his head. He is the only one making purity tests. It's insane. He's the one who's like, you can be against the genocide, but like anything that could be that I would merely misconstrue as like pro-Hamas does not pass my particular purity test. Does he not see that? He might be the most fun, self-aware person like I've ever like been exposed to. It is mind-blowing. It is fucking mind-blowing. And like, I hope this ruins him, dude. I was such a fan for a long. I was subbed. I was literally giving them money, and I went from like giving them money to wishing that they were like just off the fucking internet forever in like weeks. It's crazy. Ethan's a fucking idiot. He is the worst business person. He is the most. He should have never gotten into politics. He should have just stayed the fuck out. He should have just listened to Dan. And like, whatever Dan said, just go with that and agree with Dan. Because like, him trying to like make his own positions are just embarrassing. And him like rubbing his chin while he's talking. It's you cringe fucking beast. It is so fucking sad. It's crazy. Like what the fuck? And but whatever, dude. You and Gila can fucking live in your fantasy world, but everyone's gonna stop watching. Like how many fucking people are just kind of done? Am I right? Like look at today's episode. Peace and love. Peace and love. Where are we at? Today's episode. Really? Not even 100,000? 2 hours ago? Cooked. Get cooked. Just be gone. We're fucking so done. No one gives a look. Like this killed it, dude. Your whole fucking weird shit. The poker tournament. Like just 10 tons of cringe. The fact that you didn't even like there's ninjas there, dude. That's pretty cool. I think you are just like, you're salty on so many levels, bro. You're salty that like Hassan talks like has to talk to you like a child when you're discussing the Israel-Palestine conflict, because like you basically had the perspective of a child in this situation, and that like pisses you off because like I'm not as dumb as a child. Yes, you are. Off. then on top of it, your whole like, yeah, I'm gonna get us into poker, and you just being goddamn dog shit at poker. It's just embarrassing. I feel I'm embarrassed for you, dude. I'm not even angry. I'm done playing. It's just kind of like pathetic. I don't give a fuck how much money you have, how famous you are. You are pathetic. I would rather be fucking broker than I am. Because you are just blowing it. Just blowing it. This piece of shit. What's wrong with you? You should listen to Hassan. This Hassan isn't ideologically driven like you are. He hasn't been brainwashed. This is shit he came. He could have been a fucking weirdo right winger too. But he's like, he's a very smart person. He's like really thought about this stuff and like really talked to people. What the fuck have you done? Nothing. Listen to your wife, who is fucking ideologue. Zionist ideologue.
Sharpshooter removed.
And Zionist ideology, I'm sorry, buddy. It's fucking weird. The idea that like Jewish people who belong to the religion of Judaism, have a right to this land Arab Palestinians have been living on for 500 years. But not just that, but side by side, peacefully, with Jewish people, with Christians, with everyone. I mean, and I'm not saying that the Roman Empire was perfect, but the fact of the matter is, in that land, that Israel exists right now, there was peace. Just all people. Between Muslim, Jews, and Christians, there was peace. And the unrest, the antagonism, the conflict between Islam and Judaism didn't start until European Jews wanted to create a colonial state in the heart of the Arab world, and literally the center of it. There was no violence before that, and like now that like people are kind of like, hey, fuck this, you scream insanity. You know how fucked up, dude, fucking shitty that is. Embarrassed for all of you. It's dog shit. It's unbelievable. And it's so sad.
So good for Ethan. I covered this yesterday a little bit, but Ethan's flirtations with conservatism and how he will fixate on the idea that he is being gatekept from the left, and the left is so obsessed with purity testing that they're pushing me out and I'm becoming conservative. That's like the implication that if the left won't have me, then I'm going to become conservative. He's said in the past that people become conservative because the left is pushing them out. In this tweet, what does this guy's Reddit post say that Ethan said was like wonderfully stated? They said they're gatekeeping a genocide right now. That is what they're doing. If you aren't cool enough to sit at their table, then you don't get to be against the genocide in Palestine. So that's pretty hilarious. This guy is saying that if these progressive people won't accept me 100% and like clap and applaud when I enter the room, if they're not going to like suck my cock, then they're not making me not be able to be against genocide. So if you're not going to be against if you can't be against the genocide, then you're going to be pro-genocide? Is that essentially what this person is saying? these people aren't allowing me to be against the genocide. Since when do you need someone's permission to be against the genocide? That's the biggest issue with me. That's the biggest issue for me with this post. This person is complaining like, Mom, the kids weren't letting me be against genocide, so I sat at the pro-genocide table instead. Get offline, brother. Get offline. if you're beefing with people on progressive platforms, and then you're like, oh well, I guess I don't belong there. I'm just gonna go with these right-wingers that are pro-genocide. Or you could go offline. It's not the end of the world. You do not need to be universally accepted by leftist progressive people all the time in order to feel like you belong there and you can have a valid opinion. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't even matter. So Ethan talking about like he wants these guys to come on, which I think is a good sign, because
more specifically, I think that's
I was worried that Ethan was going to be go on to this conservative bend, endorse that Fox News article, go after like more and more conservative guys that are giving him ammunition for Hassan, because that is the pathway he's going down. He started off with some pretty personal and seemingly good faith criticisms of Hassan. And then when Hassan refused to talk about it, he just kept getting weirder and weirder, digging deeper into the bag of Hassan bad that conservatives and people like Destiny were able to supply to him. What's interesting to me is these guys are talking about the H3 audience. We can take a look at the effect that Ethan's had on his channel with his like crusade against Hassan. In the last 30 days, he's lost 40,000 subscribers from his channel. You can take a look at the dip here. Something happened in, I guess this was around October 7th, right? May 2023. And then in January and then right here, they lost some subscribers. It went back to normal, flattened out, and now it's on a downtick. And you can see like the total subscribers weekly. I guess this is like by a week. I don't really understand this this little graphic, because it makes it look like they're just losing subscribers every week, which I don't think is completely accurate if you look at the monthly gained subscribers. Oh wait, no, they are losing subscribers every week. This is the zero, so they only gained subscribers at around May 2023. That's only when they were gaining subs, and then they've been losing it for over a year straight. That's crazy. So how many subs were they at? So they were at 2.82 million, and now they're at 2.8 million. So they've lost about 200,000 subscribers over the past. Wait. No, they lost 20,000 subscribers over the past month. What's over the years? Live subscriber count, future projections. Yeah, so in November 16th, 2023, they lost 10,000 subs. Anyway, they have been losing subs over the last 30 days. They lost 40,000 subscribers. So this channel is having a demographic shift in terms of who's watching it. Ethan has been pushing away people that were amenable to Hassan's point of view, were amenable to people like the Majority Report, even Vosh. There was like a crossover audience there. And they've really pushed those people away. At first, Ethan said that he is open to criticism and just like it's important to him, so it's fine if you want to leave a comment. And now he's saying if you feel like that you don't want to watch his content anymore and you're saying move on or leaving critical comments of me, then you can just leave. And like banning people out of the comment section, banning people out of his Reddit. So, again, this is an episode where a lot of people that are being like essentially anti-Palestinian are taking their L's. Ethan Klein, he is open to getting criticized on his podcast. I think that these guys that he's talking about are pretty good. So what is this? The Try Guys podcast? And they're saying that Ethan has had some horrible takes, but they're willing to talk about him. They're willing to talk about it with Ethan on Ethan's podcast. That's great news in my opinion. Ethan Klein's channel not doing so hot. I think that like maybe he can turn that around. They've been losing subs for a year, man. They've been losing subs for a long time.
UAV established overhead.
Dan Saltman getting banned from prison. People kind of calling out his shit. Just straight up lying about Hassan, and he got banned for their harassment. And we can see even this like Fox News article that I read yesterday was not that bad. They had some out of context things from Hassan, but they actually included an interview with Hassan at the end of it. What else happened? Well, we had Matt Gaetz not getting Matt Gaetz getting cowed by the Republican senators that didn't want him.
Gaetz dropped out because his nomination was a catastrophic miscalculation to misjudge the Senate's appetite for a bruising confirmation battle over an accused sexual predator. But actually, according to Gaetz and Trump, everything was going great.
This is from Matt Gaetz. Quote, I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. Where the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition.
We have gotten a post from Donald Trump. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. He wrote, I greatly appreciate the recent efforts of Matt Gaetz in seeking approval to be Attorney General. He was doing very well, but at the same time did not want to be a distraction for the administration, for which he has much respect.
Yeah, sure, dude. He dropped out because he was doing so well. This is like the Jets holding a press conference to say they have plans for Super Bowl weekend. Yeah, we'd love to come, but we have a wedding. We can't miss the wedding. Guess it didn't take us long to get back to the desk. Gaetz with...
Okay, so I don't want to get copyright clipped there, but Seth Meyers pretty funny stuff. Man, some crazy shit on. I mean, is it just me, or are the Hassan haters getting more and more unhinged? What is this? This guy's saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the biggest R word of them all, Hassan Piker, and doesn't do anything. I mean, Destiny gets called out for liking that Fox News article on Hassan.
Look at it, hostile
and kind of embarrassing there. What does he respond with? Hassan isn't aggressive though, he's a tanky socialist. So Destiny does this stupid fucking tweet, and this guy says, a liberal is super excited for Fox News' attempt to deplatform a progressive streamer. Hassan isn't progressive though. Alright, let me try to do my Destiny impression. Hassan isn't progressive though, he's a tanky / socialist. That might have been Ben Shapiro. How is this your comeback? Anyway, I feel like Destiny's getting worse. I think Dan Salman definitely got worse. I love seeing Ethan opening himself up to criticism. And I do think that, like, I don't want to revel in someone's downfall, but I do think the loss of subscribers is kind of heartening to me because it shows that people aren't really willing to put up with pro-genocidal shit coming out of Ethan's mouth. And the other thing that I love seeing is I love seeing these fucking Zionist newscasters getting called out for their bullshit. So let's check this out. And just one more thing. Ethan's community has changed so much that this is the title of this clip that someone in the H3 subreddit said. Hassan is again contributing to the blurring of the line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. He calls Dana Bash, Jewish CNN anchor, okay, honestly, I didn't even know she was Jewish, a fascist and demonic Zionist because she was concerned about rising anti-Semitism and even specified she was supportive of pro-Palestinian protesters.
I disavow this statement, as I am a loyal soldier for Twitch, and I do not want to get banned so I can continue being an outward critic of the Israeli state and the things that the Israeli state does.
Losing A.
Okay?
Lock it down, Charlie.
You should not say it in the chat either. You will get reported. But the reality of the matter is, is a fascist. That's it.
Take it out.
Zionism is a fascist ideology.
Only whether it's guns in schools or...
Why are you calling her Dana Bash? Because she's a fucking fascist. 100p. That's why. Dana Bash is an unimaginably fucking rabid, an unimaginably rabid dick rider of Israel. Okay?
All right, let's get
And I want to tell you that I'm really upset, okay, at what I perceive to be the conflation, okay, of anti-Semitism. This is not true, and that is very anti-Semitic, and that is very upset, okay, at what I perceive to be the conflation, okay, of anti-Semitism. This is not true.
So she says, I'm very upset at what seems to be the conflation between anti-Semitism and Zionism. And this is very not fair. That is anti-Semitic, which it is true. If you are saying that my political ideology represents all groups of a certain ethnicity, then you are getting people prejudiced against that ethnicity, and you are just lying. Like if I claim to be someone who's talking about all white people, and all white people believe that you should put mayonnaise on your bread and eat that before you go to bed every night, that's like pretty stupid, and it could be hard. It's not even as bad as saying that all white people need to move into like Egypt and reclaim their ancestral homeland in the Fertile Crescent. That's essentially what Israel's doing, right? That's what Zionism is. And it's still stupid, and it's like harmful when you say all white people should floss twice before they wake up every day. I don't know what I'm saying.
And that is very anti-Semitic and very dangerous to our Jewish community and our Jewish values.
So if you do research Zionism, you can find that when the idea of Zionism was really picking up, there was a lot of pushback from Jewish communities, because the Jewish communities did not want to be otherized. They did not want to be isolated from their non-Jewish neighbors by the idea that they have this like God-given right that non-Jews don't have. Zionism, the people that pushed Zionism knew that by creating these essentially fake boundaries between Jews and non-Jews, they were creating conflict between Jews and their non-Jewish neighbors, and thus that conflict would make it harder for the Jewish people to live in those neighborhoods, and it would create a pressure to get the Jews that were living in peace, that were assimilated with their neighbors and in their countries, like were citizens of their countries, to want to leave those countries now and go to Israel. Zionism is both a prescription and it is a symptom that causes what it wants to have happen. It creates pressures that force Jewish people to leave their homeland to come to this new foreign place, and because they feel like they cannot be safe anywhere else.
When you do that...
Also, look at Dana Bash's face. She is pissed right now. She was not wanting this to happen.
I just don't know if you understand that you are being a mouthpiece for the genocide in Gaza.
Okay, so what did this lady say? She said that you should not conflate Zionism with anti-Semitism, and you are being a mouthpiece for the genocide that's happening in Gaza. Because, of course, if you criticize Israel, and Israel is definitively Zionistic, that's how it defines itself. If you criticize Israel, you are being anti-Semitic. Thus, they have like a deflection for any kind of criticism that's going against them.
That is wrong. Genocide is the most anti-Semitic thing.
Oh my God.
That is Chilstein, isn't it?
Sweet old lady who has done nothing but like speak very slowly, very clearly, and in a super calm tone, not confrontational whatsoever. She has said that genocide is wrong. Genocide is the most anti-Semitic thing you can do because Jewish people were genocided, right? So we should try to honor the memories of people that were genocided by preventing genocide from happening earlier. And I was reading this article about Dana Bash while the video was playing, and apparently she was Jewish. And it says Bash's maternal grandmother, Terry Vidor Weinman, and her family were Hungarian Jews. Hey. Weinman escaped to the U.S. with her husband in October 1941, but her parents and her sister were murdered at Auschwitz concentration camp after the occupation of Hungary in 1944. So Dana Bash's great grandmother and her great aunt were murdered in concentration camps for being Jewish. So she literally has family that died in concentration camps in a genocide. She should be fighting against this genocide too. And what does she do when this sweet old lady says that genocide is the most anti-Semitic thing you can do? She purses her lips and turns away.
Out there. This woman is 90 years old. She's a
nice. She tracks it out. Look at her eyes. She's like, get me out of this. She's like looking off into the distance. Oh, I don't want to be here right now. And I think that little eye motion did work because one of Dana's aides comes over and saves her ass too.
This woman is 90 years old. She's a Holocaust survivor. She stands outside.
Oh my God, Dana Bash is done with this conversation, man.
At the White House every single day because she lost people in the Holocaust, and she's aware that what is going on now is a Holocaust. Do you have an answer for me? I'd really like to know.
Okay. I'm not here to debate. I will just say one thing.
The woman wasn't asking you to debate. She was simply confronting you with extremely basic facts that you should know as a journalist. All right, but Dana Bash says she's going to say one thing, so let's see what that thing is.
Okay. Being anti-Israel, anti-Israeli government is not anti-Semitic.
Okay.
So she says she was going to say anti-Zionism is not being anti-Semitic, but she stopped herself because she wants to reserve that right to criticize people that are accusing her of being Zionistic, right? Everyone wants to play the victim, even when you're like one of the most powerful journalists in the entire country, and being that country is the United States, the world too. But she wants to play the victim, and she does not like it when people call her Zionist. And I have seen this clip before. I believe she talks about how she had protesters outside her window calling her Zionist, and that really hurt her feelings.
Okay, well, that's what the protests are about on campus.
No.
And
No.
You cited them several times. I have been to those protests.
Have you been to the ones at my house where they?
Have you been to the ones at my house? Man, if this old lady said yes, that would have been hilarious, because then Dana Bash would be like, oh shit, she's a real one. Also, like, she's saying that, have you been to the ones by my house? Like, these people at my house are harassing me, essentially. And what if the old lady said yes? Yeah, I have been harassing you.
They call me Zionist trash.
Okay, so notice how this woman, first of all, confronts Dana Bash with the idea that Zionism is not anti-Semitic. Saying that someone is Zionist is not saying that they are Jewish. And criticizing someone for being Zionist is not the same as being anti-Semitic towards that person, because obviously non-Jewish people can be Zionist. So this woman confronts her and says Zionism is not anti-Semitic. Dana Bash says, I think it's fine to criticize Israel. And the woman's like, okay, well, that's what people are doing when they're criticizing, when they're calling for like the end of Zionism. And then Dana Bash says, but have you been to the protest by my house where they call me Zionist trash? lady, it's okay. Your feelings are hurt. That's fine. You're not engaging with this woman's point. What? This video is no longer available. It was just getting good. Can I refresh it? If it got taken down mid-video, I'm gonna be sad. Okay, no, I think it's good. Okay, here we go.
Someone design is trash.
We're just getting good.
A bannable.
I'd really like to know.
Okay, I'm not here to debate. I will just say one thing. Being anti-Israel, anti-Israeli government is not anti-Semitic.
Okay. Well, that's what the protests are about on campus.
No.
And you cited them several times. I have been to those protests.
Have you been to
Why is she getting so mad when they're saying that the protests? Okay. Also, this woman is saying that the protests on college campuses are about Israel and like the Israeli government, right? That's objective. And Dana Bash even just said that it's okay if you criticize Israel and the Israeli government. And then, so Dana says it's okay to criticize Israel and the Israeli government, and the woman's like, well, the protests on college campuses are about that. While the woman's saying that, Dana Bash is saying, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. The protests on the college campuses are anti-Semitic. And then, but she's not able to stop the woman from completing her thought. The woman completes her thought saying that that's what the protests on college campuses are about. And immediately Dana Bash goes to, well, have you been to the protest by my house? So Dana Bash is attacking the college campus protests, but then she retreats to, well, they're personally attacking me for being Zionist. The protests at my house are personal to me, and they're the ones that are racist. Then why are you attacking the college campus protest? Why are you saying no to this woman when she's talking about the college campus protest? Why bring up this if the discussion is the college campus protest? Dana Bash is not a genuine person. She is a shill for the Israeli government and the American government. That's all she cares about, her proximity to power.
Have you been to the ones at my house where they call me Zionist trash and call for the Intifada against me?
Okay. I'm not going to.
Man, well, okay. Dana Bash wasn't lying. She really wasn't here for debate. She wants to be able to say stuff, and she does not want this red-jacketed woman to be able to say anything.